Hi, I'm Kathy DeYoung.
And I'm Madison Carter.
And in the second part of our series with Evelyn and Terri Couch, we'll be talking about the process that we went through in putting together a college list, doing the applications, all about dance programs. So we hope you'll learn a lot about the process for applying for dance programs in college. Okay, so let's talk about the process we went through. We started together early on, junior year, right?
Yeah, I think it was right as junior year was starting.
Yeah. And so part of the process is like any other normal junior high school student, right, is trying to figure out the whole college application process itself. And, you know, we talked a little bit about that and got you going on making sure you had the right courses, right? And in order to present the best application, because part of this is also, as you know, is you've got to get in to the school and get into the dance program in many cases. So we had to make sure that you had that great foundation for presenting a great application for the schools, right?
Yeah, I think Evie even changed a couple of classes based on your recommendations.
Yeah. So that worked out well. Yeah, because we had lots of conversations about foreign language.
Yes.
Do I really need to take that foreign language? But that all worked out well in the end too. So, you know, part of it was also testing, right? So can you talk a little bit about the discussions and in your thought processes about doing the standardized testing?
We talked about, she had taken a PSAT and a pre-ACT, and we took those scores and you looked at those, and we discussed which one to focus on and to keep taking, and decided with where we thought she would do better, and talked about strategies for improving scores, and then I think once we got the scores in, it was really discussing which schools to submit those to and which to go test optional based on where she landed.
Right. So she's
lots of good information.
She's in the class of 2021, which is in the middle of the pandemic. So a lot of schools were allowing test optional if the students choose to do that. So part of our conversation was what schools to send the scores to and which ones to not send them to. Yeah. Right. And I think on a whole, that worked out pretty well as a strategy.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
And you applied, you're attending Ohio State, and you know, that's fantastic. And you ended up applying test optional there, correct?
Correct, yes.
Yeah. So it didn't hold you back at all from getting into the school by applying test optional.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's great. So then once we kind of had you in a good place academically and, you know, prepared to put together a good college application, then we had the discussions about dance programs. And maybe you could talk a little bit, Evie, about how you felt that process went.
I feel like it was a little bit of a struggle at first, just figuring out what type of program that I really wanted to go into, and then finding the schools that offered the type of program that I wanted. But I think once we found a good amount of schools with one, a good program, and two, a program that I thought I would enjoy being in, it was pretty easy from there on. It was just figuring out exactly what type of program I wanted, I feel like.
Yeah.
And what type of program you wanted, plus what kind of fell into a place we thought she could get into, you know. I think Kathy also went through like the types of schools you wanted to go to. Did you want to go to a big school or a small school, or where would you fit
or warm,
best?
Warm or cold.
Yeah, we had to knock that one out because there are some, you know, when you're applying dance schools, you can't have everything. But I think it was great. I don't know that Evie even knew what type of school she would fit best into.
Yeah.
And you were able to ask a lot of questions and do some surveys to help her figure out that, yes, she would be happier at a bigger school than at a really small one. So,
yeah. And there's so many different considerations when putting together that list. Like you mentioned, it was the size of the school, it was the type of program. We even looked at the courses, right? And took a look at what the curriculum was for each dance program to see, if you got enough variation in the types of genres that you were interested in to make you happy. Because we knew that, a strictly ballet, contemporary, modern program, was not necessarily going to be the thing that's going to make you happy. You had to have access to other styles as well. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. We ended up coming up with a list, I think, of 15 schools.
Yep. 15.
So talk about how that all played out in terms of how we ended up with the 15 and then how we worked the 15 when applying.
So with the list of the 15 schools, we ranked them from like favorite to like least favorite. Mm-hmm. And at the bottom were more basically backup schools, ones that, like, if I didn't get into anything else, those would be, I would still be happy there, but definitely not a top pick. And then after we started applying, we kept rearranging the list and it would change all the time. After looking at the courses and different things, just the list kept changing and it would get shorter and shorter a little bit. But the list never stayed the same for very long. It kept changing. So, yeah.
Yeah. And it was a combination of, you would get responses, right, and interest, and you would dig in further into the colleges and say, hey, let me look at this a little bit more and, start falling in love with schools that were on your list, but you really hadn't delved into that much, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And, you wanted to do dance, but you understood that there's life beyond dance too. So, you kind of understood where your parents were coming from in terms of getting that double major and something else to rely on. If, you have a dance career, that's great, but there's a world beyond that as well. So I think that's a good approach to take.
I think everybody will go at it differently. I think there will be some, if you're going in to a dance program and you're not going to double major, it's dance all the way. There's probably going to be some schools that we knocked off mm-hmm. because we were in agreement that she was going to double major. And so that added a caveat that we had to look at.
So Evie, talk about getting into the nitty-gritty of the audition process. Now, again, you were doing it during COVID. Most of your auditions were virtual or video, but you did have an in-person audition. So talk a little bit about each of those types of auditions, how you felt about them, prepared for them, and then ultimately, what was different about each one of them.
Okay, so most of them I ended up just sending in a couple videos, whether the school itself uploaded a video of one of the professors doing some technique or a combination, and then videoing myself doing it and sending that in, or I had to come up with my own dance and send a video of that in. Those were probably, I would say, the easiest auditions, just because you make a video and you can retake that video as many times as you want to and then send it in. And then another type of audition was just on like a Zoom call. So it was still live, but I had to find a space big enough to dance in. And then I would go and we would do the Zoom call. They would ask some questions. Then I would do it. I would either perform my own like little solo, or they would ask me to improv. And then you would ask more questions afterwards. So that was, I feel like, pretty similar to like a normal in-person audition, just through Zoom, and you're the only one there. But then the in-person audition, it was definitely scaled back. So there was about maybe 12 to 15 of us there, and it was like just taking a normal class in like 2 or 3 different styles, like doing a ballet bar warm up with some of the teachers like watching you, and like taking notes, and then they would switch teachers and you would do a different style to see you. So that one was my favorite one, just because it felt normal and like.
And you got on campus.
Yeah.
Yes, and I got to tour the campus, which was really nice.
So if you had to do it differently, is there anything that you would change?
I think we could have started earlier. I mean, it didn't occur to me that we would need or could use your type of help before sophomore year, but I can totally see how that would have been beneficial. So I think doing it over again, I might have reached out even earlier.
Yeah, there is a lot to it. You know, I tell people that, you know, think about how complicated and stressful it is applying to college now, you know, just as a normal student. And then
you add those dance applications on top of it.
It automatically doubles the work. I mean, it is, wouldn't you agree? It was at least double the work to add all those dance applications and auditions.
Especially double the essays. That's the hardest part, is the essays.
I don't know how she would have kept up with everything without your help.
It was a pleasure working with you both. And thank you for taking the time to talk about it and share your experience.